throwback to 2014 when we won the World Cup, our off-pitch connection was unbelievable. So just the power that sport has is just remarkable.
There will be a lot of people that probably don't realise that most women playing for their country also have full-time jobs.
And then his colleague asked if I was in the car when they weighed it. And so I now know what my scrap worth is.
Welcome to the Being Human podcast with Amelia Vegting and Jez Francis. Brought to you by Just Add Water.
Hi, I'm Amelia Vegting.
And I'm Jez Francis, and welcome to the second series of the Being Human podcast, where with special guests, we continue to explore what it means to be human in this world we find ourselves living in. Amelia, it's been a couple of months since we last recorded an episode. There's a lot to catch up on and share with our listeners.
Yes, definitely, but we're not quite getting into boring things about me just yet, Jez. So if we could save what I can only imagine are going to be bin, car and allotment-related stories just for a little bit.
That's rude.
I was wondering whether you'd made any New Year's resolutions this year, and now that we are in February, have they stuck?
So Pilates.
Oh, yes.
I'm doing that twice a week, once in the church hall, once online, although I'm flexible.
Dear. I've had a few different ones this year. I've finally got into a really good habit of reading, and I'm really enjoying it. I'm on to my fourth book of 2024, and I'm probably reading, I think, for around about 90 minutes a day on sort of to work and back on the commute, and then, about half an hour just before I go to sleep. So
that's excellent. Is that Kindle driven?
It is. Got a Kindle for Christmas, and it's revolutionary.
Dr. Alice from last year's episode on habits would be very proud of you.
She would.
Another thing I wanted to do was to try and be a bit more present and, reflective maybe, of things going on around me, mindful perhaps. I've tried to be more aware of the natural cycle of things. So end of last year, we said goodbye to our old office in Waterloo, didn't we?
Yes.
And moved into our lovely new space in Southwark with its fantastic view and energy and kind of...
Yeah, it's a nice breath of fresh air for the start of the year.
It is, a new beginning, I think. Now, I know you said I can't mention the allotment.
I knew it was coming.
But that's got a natural rhythm to it, right? And I have to confess, I've not been down there for quite some weeks now, so I'm fearful that it's going to be like Day of the Triffids when I do get down there. And then just this weekend, my son played his last home game at the football club.
Oh, that's quite a big moment.
Yeah, that was the end of
an era.
They did win.
Excellent.
And he scored the winning goal as well.
Oh, stunning. What a way to go.
Left foot, rifling shot.
Nice.
Past the keeper.
Well, in the spirit of renewal, we're here, into season 2 of the Being Human podcast. And I think we've got some excellent conversations lined up to get us going. And I have to say, I'm really excited for today's conversation. We've definitely started the year off with a bang.
Well, look, before we introduce today's guest, should we get the boring stuff out of the way? What do you think, Amelia?
Yep, good idea.
Boring things about me.
So for those who don't know, this is the wonderful part of the podcast where we celebrate the everyday, the dull and the mundane aspects that we experience as part of being human. Jez, you're itching in your seat. What have you got for us today?
Some years ago, when my dear dad had to stop driving and he couldn't bear to part with his already ageing car, so he insisted I have it.
Ah.
So for the last few years, it's ferried me, the dog, and the kids around very dutifully. But it has failed its last MOT, and it was going to cost a fortune to get it through the test. So I decided to scrap it. Okay, this is new territory for me. So we arrived at the salvage and scrapyard on Saturday. The car was weighed, and then we moved on to the paperwork.
Okay.
At which point the man started scratching his head, looking at the car, and then looking at the paperwork. The weight of the car was clearly troubling him.
Right.
And he said, it can't weigh that much. It can't. And then his colleague asked if I was in the car when they weighed it. And then the penny dropped for both of them that I clearly was in the car. Yeah. So the quote that they'd offered me went down. And so I now know what my scrap worth is.
Go on, tell us.
Have a guess.
Oh, God. £15?
Worse, £7. £7. I told Rebecca and she thought that was a bit high. Anyway, look, what about you, Amelia? What is your first boring story for our listeners?
So despite forming some good habits of 2024, I recently wasn't that well and in passing some of the time decided to download Candy Crush as the game. I know. And since then, I have, as well as doing all my reading, I've also been playing a hell of a lot of Candy Crush. So I've become obsessed with crushing tiny different sweet shapes on my phone, and it's taking up.
So 90 minutes reading, 5 hours Candy Crush.
Exactly. All about balance. But I think also what I've realised is starting to trouble me is, as you know, Jez, I'm a highly competitive person.
Yes.
And so every time I don't complete a level, it's bothering me way more than it should. So I've sort of started having to have some conversations with myself of calm down.
Well, look, put your phone away for the next hour or two. We can't have you playing it during our conversation.
I now have the absolute honour of introducing today's guest, a force to be reckoned with on the rugby field, but also a powerful advocate for women and girls in all sports. We are delighted to have the one and only Rachael Burford on the podcast. A multiple Six Nations winner, Rachael has represented her country in 4 Rugby World Cups, winning in 2014 and 2 Sevens World Cups. Rachael was awarded the Rugby Players Association England Women's Player of the Year award in 2014 before becoming the first professional woman to be elected to the RPA's board in 2016. In 2017, Rachael won the coveted International RPA award, and in May 2021, Rachael captained Harlequins to the Alliance Premier 15's glory, beating Saracens. Rachael founded Girls Rugby Club and is head of women's rugby at International Rugby Players, the global representative body on issues of importance to all professional rugby players. Rachael, we are delighted to have you on. Welcome to the Being Human podcast.
Hi, thanks for that lovely introduction. It's a bit of a mouthful, isn't it? All players, associations and all of that. No, I'm delighted to be here and thanks for having me on.
Thank you for joining us. Before we dive into your fabulous career, we wanted to ask you a few questions just to get to know you a bit better.
Yeah.
So, first one, if you could be someone else for the day, who would it be and why?
Well, I thought about this question and I wondered if I could actually be an animal.
Yes, I think so.
Definitely.
Because I literally look at my 2 dogs every day and I just think they have zero care in the world about anything other than when their next treat is. I mean, they literally go out, they explore, they exercise, they eat, they're allowed on the sofa, they snooze all day. And I just thought that could be quite a nice life to live.
What a fabulous existence.
That does sound a dreamy life to be living. What's a song, Rachael, that would immediately get you onto the dance floor?
I don't know I'm so bad with names, so that's probably not very helpful, or artists, but I want to dance with somebody.
I think
Gets me on
is
the
that
dance.
Whitney?
Yeah, it's Whitney Houston.
Is it? Oh, there we go. I probably did know that, I just forgot.
It's a good sing-along and a bit of a belter on the dance floor as well. Love that.
What's a household chore you hate doing and why?
I don't necessarily have one, I have a few.
Okay.
And the thing is, my partner, Mike, he coaches the USA Sevens men's team. So he tours a lot and he's not here a lot. So when he comes home, he literally does these jobs because I absolutely hate them. One of them is taking all the bins out. I hate that job. There's always just a huge pile of recycling on the site because I just put it off. Emptying the dishwasher. I don't mind loading it, but emptying it, I can't stand it. And hanging up washing. The 3 things that I absolutely hate.
That's a solid list of 3 quite core household chores.
I'm glad you mentioned the bins.
You should have seen Jez's face light up when you mentioned bins. He gets very excited.
We live on a cul-de-sac, Rachael, and in my road, I'm known as the binfluencer. I love making sure that the bins are out on the right day. Shall I stop now?
I think so, yeah.
I'm not, yeah. Okay. Ask another question, Amelia, quickly.
I'll jump in. Rachael, what's your go-to podcast to listen to, of course, other than this one?
Of course. I quite like self-growth or just learning kind of podcasts. I really like Diary CEO because he always has so many different people on there from different walks of life. And it's always really kind of interesting. And then kind of sporting ones, the high performance podcast as well, kind of getting into the minds of people who are in the sporting sector, have maybe achieved everything or failed in a lot of cases as well. So I quite like exploring and finding out new things, and they're probably my 2 biggest go-tos.
Okay, last one of these questions, Rachael. If you could have dinner with 3 other people, who would you invite round the dinner table?
Who would I have? I would probably want some entertainment, and I watched Michael McIntyre's show the other night, and he's just so funny. So I think he would be a great crack to have around the table. I would love to like get into the mind of like Michael Jordan and just pick his brains. And then finally, maybe somebody like Pink or Adele, because I reckon give them a couple of glasses of wine and they'll probably sing for us. So, and they're both really cool people. So they would probably be my three.
I think it sounds like you'd have a lot of fun at that dinner party.
If we start at the beginning, can you tell us a bit about your background and where you're from?
Yep. So I grew up in Lordswood, which was just outside of the Medway towns in Kent. Spent most of my childhood growing up in Lordswood, and then we moved over to Rochester, which was literally walking distance of the rugby club, which was basically our second home growing up. And that's where I kind of went to secondary school around that area. In terms of rugby, I picked up a rugby ball within a team at the age of 6 years old, but I was always kind of running around at a younger age with a rugby ball in my hand because my sister played. So I was always down there on the weekends when she was training. So, and that was kind of where I guess my rugby journey really began. And I played in that boys team up until the age of 11/12, like as you're going into the girls section. And then from the age of 13 is where you kind of start going into a county level and a regional level. And then that's when kind of England opportunities also started to turn up. And without realising, like all my focus really went into my rugby because it was something that I felt confident in and that I felt good at. So I kind of channeled a lot of my focus there and my care and, you know, my dreams are all around that kind of stuff. Yeah, like my family, they all played rugby. So my dad played. He was the one who introduced us all to the game. My mum picked up the rugby ball and started playing in her later years, and my sister played. So it was a real family affair piece. And like I said, the rugby club was literally our second home because my dad was like the treasurer, the secretary, the barman, and my mum was the barwoman. Like, so we just were, we were there kind of every day, whether we were restocking, whether we're serving, whether we're there for training, watching games or playing and training ourselves. It was definitely something that was like a solid part of our life growing up.
In your family DNA.
Yeah, absolutely.
Rachel, what was life like for you as a young person?
I think like when I reflect on growing up, like my dad used to play, as I mentioned, but he actually shattered 3 vertebrae in his neck and he was no longer allowed to play any sport and also had to retire from or go off sick from work because he couldn't work. And my mum, she's Polish and she came over from Poland and then suddenly she had to go out to work. So it wasn't that we struggled growing up. Like we always had food and clothes and, you know, warmth and all of that side of stuff. But we wasn't a well-off family. It wasn't, you know, we used to drive to Poland every year for our family holidays. But I had such a really happy childhood. Like I always remember, you know, having a lot of friends. And massively, that's due to the connection at the rugby club. Like my parents had lots of friends. They'd always socialise. And so like it was a really kind of happy childhood. And I think because of rugby, I was so fortunate that I had that because during school, like I really struggled academically. I almost got to a point of like, I just didn't want to be there. And it was just because I didn't learn in the same way. And this is a long time ago where methods of learning have very much changed nowadays. And like, you know, at the age of 15, I was told I had the region age of a 10-year-old. So then I was like put into like a separate class, which literally felt like I was a little bit like back in primary school. We had like workbooks and it was like so basic. But so I just really struggled and I didn't get a lot out of my education. It almost felt like working against me, apart from a couple of the PE staff that really kind of looked after me. And I guess they knew and they know what the power of sport can do for individuals.
Yeah.
And because I'm quite a strong-willed, stubborn for sure, which I think comes from playing with the boys, they would ask me to read out loud in class and knowing that, and me knowing as well, that reading out loud is not a strength of mine and I didn't want to do that. It would have been embarrassing and so I refused to. I wasn't going to be forced to do something that I felt really uncomfortable doing. So I had a lot of fallouts with a lot of teachers. And a lot of that school time really shaped my thinking about myself. You know, I just felt and thought that I was stupid and I had no idea what path I would take or where I'd go. I used to kind of put myself in like just practical pockets of like, oh, maybe I'll join the army, or I'll try and be, a personal trainer, because I don't think that at the time, I didn't think, those things needed straight A's and people that could read really well.
Yeah.
And it really kind of shaped my thought process about myself for such a long time, until I started to see actually what rugby has given me and how I can apply that kind of off the pitch.
You've obviously mentioned your parents and their involvement in the club kind of being an early influence on you. And you mentioned a couple of sports coaches at school. Who were the important people in your life and how did they help and guide you?
Yeah, I mean, as you go through like your life and journeys, like there's different pivotal people at every moment. Certainly growing up and into later life, like my mum and dad have done everything that they could to get me into the position that I was in. And, I'm so grateful for them, because without their commitment, everybody talks about the athlete and what they've done, but without my mum and dad sacrificing their time, traveling, money to get me to places, to buy me equipment. I left home when I was 16 to go to a rugby academy in Bath, which was like 3 hours on a train. And I was playing at Medway because it was the year that I was old enough to play alongside my mum and sister in the same team. And I didn't want to give that up. So my mum, she would clean the rugby club Monday and Friday, and then she would give me that money to then get a train back, to then have a bit of spending money at the week. And she would just do that every single week, no questions asked, And if it wasn't for all of those things that your parents do, they don't kind of get you on that path, and things don't ever amount to anything. So they've been massively important in my career, and, I owe so much to both of them. I think during school time, there was 2 PE teachers, Mr. Cleves and Miss Wellman, who, again, just kind of understood and probably saw parts of themselves in me from a young age, and just really, really looked after me. My head of year just had it in for me, like just... he used to often say to me, rugby's never going to take you anywhere. You need to start sorting your studies out. And just one of those. And, I was the highest achieving student in sport, but never really got recognised at school. And PE, I opted for that for my GCSEs, and they didn't give it to me, on like options day, like career explore days. And one of them was like an army camp and a sport camp. And then you had to put like 4 options down. And I think I put my like last option being like a makeup class, and they gave me that as like the first one. So it just felt like there was a bit of an agenda. But Mr. Cleves, he said, I'll have her in my class, she'll be in my form, and I'll look after her. And so just like, again, a different kind of moment and time in my life. But if it wasn't for those PE teachers that saw something in me and looked outside of just kind of what she does in English and maths. I think, the way that I was feeling would have probably spiraled out of even more in terms of like in a real negative way. So I was kind of really, really grateful to those. Rugby journey wise, like Gary Street, he was kind of my first real, I guess, senior coach in kind of the England setup. I was at the academy with him. He was the coach when we were at the Bath Rugby Academy. And then my England coach, we won the World Cup together. And then again at Harlequins. And he's always been there at really important points in my life. And again, just somebody who's kind of always supported me, given me the belief of what I can do. And sometimes that's all you need, is just one person to believe in you, to make you believe in yourself. And he definitely did that multiple times in my career. And I could list so many more people, but this is only an hour podcast.
Rachael, talk us through what a normal week is like for you as a professional rugby player. How do you prepare for games, training, all of it?
So for the PWR, our premiership, a lot of players still have full-time jobs or are students. There's a handful of kind of internationals who are full-time, and they're really full-on weeks. And so if you take that into consideration, people who are still working and studying and transitioning and all those kind of things, we train as a team 3 times a week. So on a Monday, the program kind of starts around 2:30 p.m. And then throughout the rest of the week, we have daytime sessions and evening sessions. If I give you kind of a typical Tuesday, which is very similar on a Thursday as well. So we'll come in and we'll have a speed session on field. Then we'll have a skill session on field. Then we'll be in the gym and we'll have weights to do. And then we'll have a unit session, which is kind of forwards and backs. So we'll work on our plays or we'll do some video analysis. And then we'll have a team meeting. And then we'll go out and we'll train in the evening from kind of 7:30 till 9:00. That's very similar on a Thursday. The speed and skills is slightly different. We have like a contact conditioning club. So where we go to a gymnastics factory, so it's nice and soft. And we get a big kind of technical session in around our tackle technique. And then again, the rest of it repeats. And Mondays are a little bit kind of, because obviously you've just played on Saturday. So for example, like today's will be same sort of setup. We'll have skills in the afternoon. We'll have weights that we've got to do. We might have an off-feet bike session to do as well, just to kind of flush the legs. And then the team session is, you can't go too high intensity, but we're still out there. And what we do at our club is, because we're quite disjointed in terms of like where we all come from, we're not all homegrown around Surrey and Guildford. We're kind of scattered all over the place. So we've got to try and make strong connections with each other. So we have we have dinner club on a Monday. So we'll go out, we'll have our session, and then we'll come in a little bit earlier than normal and we'll have dinner together and just like be present and with each other, trying to build those connections off the pitch, because it's just as important. You know, the more that we can be connected off the field will naturally, you know, it will make you care about an individual more, first and foremost. And then when you're on a pitch and you're in a dark place, or you've got to work a bit harder to support that person, that's naturally going to happen. Whereas if it's kind of just, you know, turn up, do a job, go home, there's no real deeper meaning connection there. And if you can create those bonds, and like all teams, there are some players that don't get on with each other, and there are some players who are really, really close. And I think if you acknowledge that, and that's absolutely fine, but the majority of you are in a position where actually this is a really tight connection. And when we come onto the field, you know, it's not about who's best friends with who. It's actually just about collectively how we work together. And I've seen that work in teams, and I've seen it where, you know, a team has not been connected. And throwback to 2014 when we won the World Cup, our off-pitch connection was unbelievable. And we worked really, really hard at it, making sure that the team was in a really good place, individuals were in a really good place, and that we actually talk about individual whys, like why do you do what you do? Why do you, you know, for some of our full-time workers, why do you get up at the crack of dawn to do a session, to then go to work all day, to then turn up, literally chuck your boots on, get in the gym, do your units, and you're looking at a 16, 17-hour day. Like, why do you do that? And so like to understand players and individuals and knowing what their drive is. And we did that in 2014 and we all sat in a room and we shared it with each other, and it just brought us all so much closer. You know, there was like tears in some, it was laughter in the other. It's not something that you can kind of write down and say, this is what it looks like. It's all about a feeling.
Yeah. As a captain, Rachel, what motivates you, you know, to lead both on and off the field, and who has inspired you through their leadership?
I think my leadership has probably changed over time. When I was younger, it's probably more about just wanting to win and be the best. And don't get me wrong, that's definitely what I still want. But I think that's for sure. But I think for what's for me really important now as a leader is actually making sure that the team are in a really good place, that individuals are in a good place, that actually I want to see everybody thrive and be the best version of themselves. And if that results in a win, great. But if it doesn't, the team collectively and individuals collectively are in a really good place, and they're working towards their best version. Like, I think that's where my leadership has kind of changed over the years, for certain, is wanting to see others really thrive, as opposed to it just being about the outcome of a win or a lose.
It's interesting, isn't it? So if you lead in the way that you're describing there, the results over time will kind of look after themselves almost, won't they?
Yeah, I'm a big believer in, if you're in a good space, then the best does come out of you. And so as a leader, you can't just worry about the game on the Saturday. You've got to worry about, you know, the environment, how a message is delivered, how's a player feeling after getting a bit of bad news, how are they thinking and feeling, what can I do to help, or you know, those kind of like small things, but really do have an impact generally.
What lessons can anyone learn from taking part in sport at whatever level, I guess, that perhaps apply to life a bit more generally?
Oh, honestly, there's so many different things. The ability to work with people is so critical, and it's so overlooked. Like people just are expected to be put into a team and right, okay, now you're going to function and you're going to, I don't know, get me X amount of sales. And in everyday life is being able to mix with different people, different cultures, different backgrounds, find strengths and weaknesses, and be able to collectively work better and use each other's strengths and weaknesses to your advantage. I think kind of the discipline element, turning up, getting a job done when things aren't going right, still doing the job. Discipline is just massive. Like if you don't have that, you probably won't get far in sport. And that relates into anything off the pitch, whether that's in your lifestyle, your health, in your relationships, all those kind of things. It plays a massive part. I used the confidence that I had from sport where, I'm a decision maker, I'm a leader, I've got strong communication skills. Like, how can I build this into something else? And actually looking at the ways that I can use all that experience and then put it into something else. And I know we might talk about it in a bit, like the Girls Rugby Club, like setting up my own business, running the accounts, where I didn't get a GCSE in maths and, but it's from the confidence and all the things on the pitch that then allow me to actually drive and try stuff and be brave. Because when you're on a rugby pitch, you've got to be brave, you've got to be courageous, you've got to make tough decisions, you've got to try things, you're going to fail a hell of a lot, but sport has always taught me to keep going. There is literally so many parallels that you could draw from sport into life and into business. But it took me a long time to like recognize it or even see that being a leader or a captain in a team, like how much of that I could take away from it. Doesn't just have to stay in rugby. I can do that elsewhere.
Rachael, how have you seen women's rugby evolve since you started playing?
Oh, dramatically. If I was to like rewind to my first cap in 2006, it was in Canada, and we honestly had about, I reckon, maybe 50 people watching. It was streamed, but it was incredibly like grainy. And then I fast forward to 2021 World Cup being played in 22 due to COVID, where I was commentating on the World Cup final at a sold out Eden Park. Like it's just worlds apart, like worlds apart, not just from a fan perspective, but like just every aspect of it. It's amazing to see. Like we was only joking the other day that in 2009 for the Sevens World Cup, we had to stitch on our own badges. But it's just like so many things like that. And this year, Harlequins, we've got our names on the back. We've got female fitted shirts.
Yeah.
When I started playing, we were wearing like the men's third team's baggy leftover shirts that didn't fit anybody. We were on like the back pitches. We didn't have changing rooms. Like we didn't have floodlights. We had to fight for like a crappy piece of pitch somewhere around the back. Whereas now it's completely different.
Yeah.
Not just right at the top end, but in the community clubs as well. Like women's rugby, girls rugby is really, really valued. There's still a long way to go and there's still plenty of work. And I'm sure there's a lot of bad stories still around, but it is night and day from when I started to where it is now.
Rachael, what are some of the challenges that you've faced as a female athlete in the rugby world and how have you overcome those?
I guess like I do find this question quite challenging when I am asked about it, because I think when you're in it and what you don't know, you're not really recognising challenges. And it's wrong because it's almost like this is normal for us. So
yeah.
And for a long, long time, there wasn't any questioning around women's support, contracts, facilities. It's only probably been in the last 5-6 years that people are really talking out, being like, hang on a minute, this isn't right. I'd probably say the main challenge was obviously we were amateur for so long.
Yeah.
And that was hugely challenging to hold down a full-time job. And particularly for players who, well, certainly not myself, I didn't have a career path that I was set going down. I was kind of always doing jobs that just kind of allowed me to take time off when I needed it to go and play rugby.
Yeah.
That was all really challenging, trying to balance all of that aspect. And you're not thriving in terms of what you're earning to live off. And, you're kind of just surviving, getting through to try and live the dream that you want to live. So I'd say that's a big area. And then the only other one that I kind of still, for me, is just that comparison that we always have is against the men. And it's two completely different, you can't compare them. And it's almost, I just want people to see the game for women's rugby for what it is and the men's game for what it is.
Yeah.
And then the last one would be, which has really come to light, is just the lack of female specific research in women's sport is just so poor. Like everything that we have done is all based on men's data.
Yeah.
Whether that's nutrition, sports psych, training, like so your types of conditioning, your gym programs, so much is so focused around men, and there's been hardly anything concrete around women's health, in terms of menstrual cycles, REDs, which a lot of women really, really suffer, especially athletes. It's just like all of those areas, and women who have children and then come back from it, that it's so rare that like those challenges are there and real, but because they've never been spoken about and never researched properly, we've never been able to actually overcome some of those challenges that people just go through. And it's a bit like my first comment around, you just kind of get on with it and this is what it is. And I think because so much is not done in the women's space, that we just find ourselves not even recognizing that there are challenges. We're just kind of moving through the motions. So I think that's some of the key areas for me.
So you've also founded Girls Rugby Club. Tell us what that is and why you're doing it.
Yeah, so the Girls Rugby Club, it originated back in 2016 and it was called the Burford Academy. And basically it all stemmed from, I used to work for England Rugby as a community rugby coach, and my role was head of girls rugby, women and girls rugby in Kent. And I started seeing so many girls kind of dropping out of playing when they get to the age of kind of 10, 11, 12, because that's the time where you've got to move from playing with the boys into a girls team only. And so many clubs weren't in the position to offer girls, because it's similar to my upbringing. I was one of the only girls who was in the team. So if you've only got 4 or 5 girls across your whole mini section, it's going to take 4 or 5 years to get all of those girls in one team together.
Yeah.
So you'd see just a lot of dropout. So I decided to like host a day where it was like, if you're a girl and you play rugby in the county, you are welcome to come along today. And we had so many girls turn out. And what that did was just kind of, give them an opportunity to be in an all-girls environment, to meet new people. And now maybe my club, Medway, has got 6 or 7 girls, and the club down the road's got 3. And now we've made friends. There's like that kind of familiarity. There's that connection. It's like, oh, actually, it's not going to be so bad moving to that club and joining that team because I know some of them. So it's trying to help kind of bridge those gaps. And it was unbelievable, the amount of girls that we got turning up, and it was from all ages. And then kind of swing forward, I came professional in 2014, and I was working on something to do alongside playing, and our contracts were up for negotiation, and my coach was like, look, we're not sure what we're going to do with your contracts. And it kind of made me go, right, I really need to get, something off pitch that I'm really passionate about, that I care about. And it's all about 3 things: creating more opportunities for girls, making sure that there's an environment where girls can thrive in. And when I say that, I mean being an all-girls environment, because for a lot of girls, they don't experience that until they get to 13. And actually, it's quite daunting. And a lot of players enjoy their time playing with the boys, but they've never experienced anything else. And that's so some of them do drop out just for that reason. And it's to create lasting memories. So having a really good time and being able to take those kind of lessons and that enjoyment back to their own clubs and their own environments. So we had a group of girls coming for a camp, and we just started talking about girls rugby in schools. And it broke my heart, the fact that when I was at school, there was no girls team. There was a boys team that I wasn't allowed to take part of. And then I'm sitting in a room, 25 years later, and the same situation is happening.
Yeah.
One girl was like, yeah, the school know I play rugby, but they never asked me the questions when they're like, if they say, oh, who likes rugby, who's got some questions they want to ask this person or whatever, they always ignore me. And it's just like, it's so sad. So like what we did, we set up a petition just to try and drive a narrative around actually schools should be, where they offer rugby for boys, they should be offering it for girls as well. We're not saying every school's got to do it because it takes resource and time.
Rachel, what would you say to, young women, girls, mums and dads even who haven't thought about playing rugby before?
I would just say, give it a try. It just gives you, a sense, and I know it sounds cliche, but rugby is such a family orientated sport. And I often say this is, if you feel like you don't fit in somewhere, rugby is for you. Like if you think that you're not fast enough, quick enough, or, you're too big, too small, like there is a place that's a strength in our team. And that's what I think makes rugby so unique, is that we need so many different aspects. Like we can't have all skinny girls. We need some big, strong women and girls in our team. Like it just makes them kind of feel belonged, and that they have a sense of identity of who they are. They haven't got to be anybody else, because actually what you bring is what we need. And I think that can be so powerful, especially in young people, especially with, body image and all of that.
Oh,
it's just such a empowering environment. If you don't mind, I'll quickly share a story about rugby. And it came from, I was doing some coaching in a school, and we kind of built it. We did a few sessions in the school. Then I took them to the rugby club, did some sessions at the rugby club, integrated them with some of the club players. And then it was like that kind of coaching chapter or phase came to an end. And it was kind of like, okay, if you want to stay playing at the rugby club, you can do. There's no pressure to. And there was this one girl who did join the rugby club. And it was about maybe 6 or 7 months later, we was at a fundraising event. And the parent came up to me and she said, I need to thank you. And I said, what do you mean? She said, well, I can't tell you what this sport has done for our life. And I was like, okay. And I knew, obviously, then we talked about who her daughter was. And she went on to explain, she said, I was in a really, really bad situation in terms of domestic violence. And she said, but what joining this rugby club did, it gave me a group of people, a community that I could support and rely on, that allowed me the strength and the confidence to get myself out of that situation and know I have people there. So just the power that sport has, not just on its face value of, the health and the well-being, but a wider side to it of somebody feeling completely isolated, joining a sport that then opened up so many other opportunities for her. It's just remarkable what being part of a sport can do.
That's heartwarming, isn't it? Yeah. When I heard you say, there's a place for you, what a brilliant thing. Fabulous.
Rachel, looking ahead, we know this is your last season for Harlequins.
That's right.
What's going to be next for you?
I don't exactly know. I'd like to take just a little bit of time out and just rest. All I know is I'm really passionate about continuing to try and make a difference in our game.
Yeah.
And whether I find myself in coaching or whether it's more in the administration side, which I do with international rugby players, I'm just kind of not sure where my full attention is going to go to. I quite like the fact that, I do a bit of coaching, some media and the administration side. So I'm kind of in 3 parts of it. And I know that I'm going to maybe have to dive into one area. But I'm just kind of looking forward to having some time and spending time with my family some more, being at home some more. And everyone always talks about when you're in the rugby bubble, you don't really see anything other than that. So I guess it's kind of just taking a bit of time out, assessing my situation, what I want to do, but in no rush really to make any final decision straight away.
I'm sure the next chapter, as it unfolds, will be amazing.
I hope so.
Rachel, thank you so much for taking time out of your, what we now know is a very, very
hectic week.
Hectic week. It's been fascinating talking to you. So many things that I've learned anyway. I'm sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Oh, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for having me on.
Well, that was an absolutely brilliant conversation. It completely flew by. I think Rachel's a very inspiring, determined and resilient woman. You know, women's sport really does have the power to change people's lives. And, you know, as somebody who's played sport since I was young, I've seen it myself and also do feel really empowered and strong whilst playing sport. So it's really, I think, really brilliant what Rachael is trying to do to pave the way for so many more girls and women to have access to, you know, rugby as an avenue to do that in. I think it was such a good conversation.
What was your biggest reflection having listened to Rachel's story?
I think the way that she referenced the challenges that female athletes face, sometimes difficult to talk to, because she described it as it just is the way it is and therefore you just have to get on with it, I think was particularly interesting for me. That I think there will be a lot of people that probably don't realise that most women playing for their country also have full-time jobs to make sure that they can afford to do and live and be the way they want to be. I thought it was just an extremely thought-provoking conversation with her. What about you, Jez?
Well, linked very closely to our work as Just Add Water with our clients, I was struck by the importance Rachael places on taking time out of the work, you know, playing the game, to really get to know, understand, empathise even with her colleagues. And what I quite liked there was she was talking about, you know, you don't actually have to be best friends with everyone, but you do need to understand them and how critical that is to the team's performance back on the pitch. The other thing that struck me was the role teachers, coaches, parents, and any adults, I suppose, can play in helping kids work out who they are, what they're capable of, and why they're here.
Yeah, absolutely. That is it for our first episode back of season 2 of the Being Human podcast. Thank you so much for listening. If you did enjoy this episode, please do hit the follow button and leave us a review on whatever platform you use.
We'd love to hear from you. So if you have any suggestions on topics you'd like us to explore, or if you'd like to be a guest, or if you want to talk to us about the work we do with Just Add Water, please do get in touch.
You've been listening to the Being Human podcast. Brought to you by Just Add Water. Nurturing individual brilliance, forging collective strength.
All that tapping around on there, was that you doing work or were you playing Candy Crush?
I wish I was playing Candy Crush. I need to get past level 125.
You've got a more fancy gob anti-popping device. Maybe they feel that you're more salivary than I am.
Or
There goes Amelia Vegting, a salivary lady.
Hi, I'm Amelia Vegting.
I'm Jez Francis. Sorry, I forgot the and. I mean, some people say it's not necessary, but I'm a stickler for an and. God.
I think you have been listening to that
Too much
too
partridge.
much, yeah.
That wasn't recorded, was it? Oh, shit.